We get to be the ones that stand back and go, is that love? And listen. We get to be the ones that say, wait a second. Is that compassion? You know what? Because if it isn't love, what we teach here is that it's not real. Now, how can that be? Because it sure looks real. Because for a long time, we've had it backwards. We've looked to conditions and effects and news cycles to tell us who and what we are and what our condition is. And then we ask it permission. We ask that permission as if it's power. And it's not. We are the ones who collectively and individually made that. This is a place of responsibility, and it doesn't always feel good. But when you realize that you're not a victim of that, that's when the power hits. If I created it, I can choose again. So, what are you a stand for? What are you a stand for right now? What are you a stand for? In the midst of everything that's going on, what are you a stand for? Because you know what? Whether you are aware of it or not, you are taking a stand. And you may not be speaking it. You may not be marching. You may not be out from among them with your stand. But your stand, who you are, speaks louder than your actions. Who you be is what informs the world what your stand is. That is the same thing as saying that there are no private thoughts. If we are all one, we are all joined in mind, then there are no private thoughts. So you can be at home all by yourself thinking this and thinking that. But if it's not love, it's an illusion, a dream, and it's not real. So who are you being day in and day out? Who are you being moment by moment? And remember that you get to choose. You get to choose what your stand is. And it always comes down to love or fear. I love what's going on. I'm choosing to love what's going on in the world because I think it is a big wake-up call, and that's good for us because we say we're about awakening. So here it is, guys. We get this opportunity to awaken in the midst of what seems crazy and what seems to be a world, and I'm not just talking about our local politics, what seems to be a world that is escalating in a way that is out of control, that is insane. And so we get this opportunity to practice what we preach. This is not a community that just stands here on Sundays and preaches about it. It's a 24/7 practice. And all of that blesses us because it puts right before us that which needs to be healed within us. It is that man in the mirror, that woman in the mirror, that person in the mirror. It is our mirror, and we get to look at it, not curse it, look at it. Trust it as information, good information, and then go within and heal first. Unity is a philosophy of responsibility. We don't have doctrines, we don't have dogmas that point, as I said earlier, to being saved by an entity outside of ourselves. It really is requiring that the holy and beloved children of God take responsibility and mature into our Christ itself. That we take ownership of that we accept it, that we invite it and be it, and that fuels the stand that we are in the world. It is a philosophy of oneness. Unity, it means oneness, it means wholeness, it means oneness and love. So like our forefathers who did not refuse to pledge allegiance to a foreign power, to a political system or to an organization, whether it be religious or otherwise, I'm asking us not to serve those things either, because they are structures, they are conditions, they are effect. We made them. We made them. And if we could go back far enough, we made these structures to serve us, not the other way around. Got it backwards again. So we created them, and we can cease feeding that. We can cease creating that. We can cease supporting that any longer, being enslaved by that. We can dismantle and choose again anything in our lives that is unlike love. And God or Spirit does not really do this for us. Again, it's our responsibility. I mean, we have been taught that God will do for us what we can't do for ourselves. And yes, that is true, but it is not by an intervention of a being outside of ourselves. It is rather through and as us being that channel, being that holy and beloved child maturing as Christ in God that can do that. So we must choose to turn. We must choose to turn ourselves. Nobody's going to pluck the fear from us. We must say no more. We must turn from that fear and fearfulness to that spirit, to that source of all that is, to that pure love which is within us. And why doesn't it actually do it for us? Because it can only do for us what we allow to be done through us and as us. Why else? Do you think God really knows about inequity? God does not behold inequity. That's in the scripture. What does that mean? God knows nothing of wars, of starvation, of strife. If God is love, which is what we say here, and then we say God is all that there is, then how could there be anything else? It doesn't make sense. Start looking and listening to what we have been taught. And just let it be in the light of your awareness so that you can choose for yourself. So it's our responsibility to turn from fearful ideas that we've made up, that we've claimed, and that we've called our own, and then forgot about it and then thought we were a victim to it. Kind of crazy, huh? I mean, I'm the first to admit I can be kind of crazy at times, you know. How about you? Am I the only one? So anyway, so what is fear? We talk about like it's either love or fear, and we talk about a love a lot, but what the heck is this thing called fear? And fear can be summed up in one word only. When you're afraid, think of the word separated. When I'm afraid, I feel separate from. I have separated myself off from all of creation. I think that I need to be alone to make myself, to build structures where I am protected because I am fearful, because I believe that harm can be done to me. Well, when I'm over here, it's because I'm identified as a body. Yeah, my body can be harmed, but my spirit cannot be. What and who we are is eternal and transcends that body. So when I'm in fear, it is that separated part of myself that has walled myself off from God, from spirit, from love. So there's one word that is the genesis of fear, and I like that we're called unity because it kind of seems like the opposite of separation, doesn't it? Good title, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, for this organization, for this philosophy, unity. So separation feeds fear, but there's another thing that happens when we're fearful. Because it is so painful, we can't tolerate it ourselves. So when we've walled ourselves off and we believe that we're a body and that we need to protect ourselves, we are so insane and miserable, but we can't contain it, so we have to cast it off. We project guilt. It's not my fault. This happened to me, that happened to me. I did this, I did that, I'm guilty, they're guilty, we're all guilty. I mean, it doesn't feel good, does it? Let it go. Let it go. You do not need to stay there. So we return to this idea of oneness, that we are not a victim, that if we're stuck, we chose it, and we can choose again. We can choose freedom. We can choose forgiveness. We can choose love. So I've been asking this for a couple weeks. If God is love, and God is, and if God is all that there is, and God is, I'm just saying that. So then what are you? Maybe so, but that's blasphemous. Who are you to say that you are God? Who do you think you are? You holy and beloved children of God? Whatever gave you that idea? Hmm. Can we really be that far apart from our source, from our creator, that unlike that which created all that is? I say no. Somebody told us a fib, and we believed it. So time to let that go. Time to be that stand for love, for God, for all that is. So God is known to you within relationship as this is all that is real here. I said this last week. I decided to revisit it again. And what does this mean? And so my question to you is the body real? I mean, we've all had friends who have laid the body down and we still feel their presence. We still remember them as they were. And we even imagine that they are in a better place, in a place of love. That there is anybody open to it and energetic of that individual. That when it says that we join, we're not joining in body. We join in heart. We join in mind. And in that joining, that is real, that is lasting. The test of anything that is real and lasting is it infinite? Is it eternal? And if you cannot answer yes to that, then it is not. And so is the political system that we have real? Is our country real? Are countries and boundaries and even state lines real? Do any of these things last? If you look at maps from hundreds of years ago, they change over time. It's all made up. We're the ones who are putting the boundaries and separating things apart. We're the ones, and we can. In knowing that, I don't say that for blame. I say that for hallelujah. Hallelujah, because then I can choose again. So what is the state of our relationship? What is the state of our union? How are you a stand for your relationship, for your union, for unity? How do you march? How do you march? How do you be a stand for love in the midst of fear and separation? Martin Luther King said, you have no morally persuasive power. You have no morally persuasive power if people can feel your underlying contempt. I'm going to say it one more time. This is powerful. You have no morally persuasive power if people can feel your underlying contempt. When we go out in the world and we try to change things from a place of fear, anger, contempt, what do you get? Fear, anger, contempt. It escalates. So your underlying contempt speaks louder than words. Our return to love, our lovingness, our unity-mindedness, however, can and does move mountains. So how do we heal that? What do we do here every Sunday? We talk about these principles. These principles show you how to heal this in every aspect of your life, your relationships, your health, your wealth, your well-being. It applies to everything. If it didn't, it wouldn't be truth. A truth axiom, a principle, applies to everything. So what I'm talking about here, if you don't have issues with what's going on, apply it to your other issues. It matters not. And so the very first thing that we must do is not treat the symptom, not go out there with our underlying contempt or our overt contempt. Remember, man in the mirror, landscape in the mirror. It's here to reflect back to you what is to be healed within you. Every prayer request, no matter what it is, every prayer request begins with God is, I am. What you say after that consciousness matters not. When we get that unity, when we get that oneness, when we've gone from separation to wholeness, that's healing right then and there. And then you just apply that to everything else. And so there is only one exercise I've been talking about. Dedicate your thoughts to union. When senseless thoughts fill your mind, when resentments arise, when underlying contempt is eating you alive, when overt contempt is making people call you crazy and insane, when worry comes, repeat the thought that comes to open your heart and mind. I dedicate all my thoughts to union. Be disturbed enough to take a stand. I'm not saying don't take a stand, but choose the stand that you are to take. Choose it from a place of love, of oneness, of wholeness. The proper use of doubt is to doubt the ego, to doubt that one who's walled off and separated. That's the proper use of doubt. And when that arises, look at what you're seeing and just notice. And just notice. So as we release fear and we join in oneness, we must know that we are one with all of creation, that what's being mirrored back to us is for our own growth and development. One of the things I said last week is that we have to forgive others for being as they are. They get to choose. They get to choose. And their choosing doesn't impact us when you're aligned as that oneness. But what I'm here to say is that we need them. There is nobody outside the love of God. Nobody. No matter what you think they are, who they seem to represent, what they've done, what they didn't do, acts of commission or omission, matters not. When I was contemplating that, I was thinking of this walk I took. I'm going to leave Monday, and I'm going out to the San Jose area to visit a friend. And the last time I visited him, we went to see the redwoods, I think Muir Forest or something like that. And I was thinking of the redwoods, because the redwoods demonstrate how we need one another, how no one can be left out of this. And if has anybody been there to see the redwoods? Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, they're in northern and central California coast. They're among the tallest trees on earth. They're skyscrapers. They reach over 350 feet. And when you see them, you notice that they do not stand alone. They don't stand alone. They actually grow in family units. Not just one family units, though. There are clusters of them. And so they are not alone. They grow up in these clusters and these families, and they literally connect under the surface of the soil to one another. Because, the rainfall there is pretty sparse, and the nutrients of the soil don't go that deep. And they don't have a tap root. So they're 350 feet tall, but they do not have a tap root that goes down a distance that seems reasonable to keep them standing. And so what these roots do, is that they spread and they interlock and they graft with their family and their neighbors, and that it becomes a system that enables these trees to stand year after year after year, decade after decade. And they grow and survive by intermingling their root system. They hold on to one another, they nurture one another, and their power is derived by joining in this way. Unity, one with all creation. When an underlying contempt arises about your brother or your sister, no matter who they are, or a political system, or a country, or a rat. I've attracted a rat at my bird feeder. I'm getting to practice this, that rat is part of God's creation, and I somehow called him forth. I'm hoping the hawk might get him, but that doesn't seem quite right either. So I get to contemplate this as I look out my window, this underlying contempt that I have, that I can remember to dedicate my thoughts to my brothers, to my sisters, to the world, to creatures, to creation, and unite and stand. United we stand, right? Divided we fall. And I get to remember, I dedicate all thought to union. I dedicate all thought to union. All thought. Now, man in the mirror means that we do the same thing with us. We give ourselves that same courtesy of being kind and noticing simply what we notice as information to heal within in the same format. We dedicate our feelings, our reactions, our emotions, being fully human and fully divine, to union. And then taking it even a step further, when I'm angry with God, with creation, I have to forgive that too. That God made me in community. That I am required to love my brothers and sisters. That I am required to remove the plank from my eye and quit focusing on the speck.